Daisy, I'm absolutely delighted to have you on Filme Shilmy. I've been wanting to interview you for quite some time now, and I'm super glad that this opportunity has come for a very promising film like Dhaakad. So, huge congratulations, first of all.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on your show, Anuj. Thank you.
Lovely. Now, just to kind of rewind back a little bit, Razy, you've made a few shorts before. So, what drove your decision to make your feature film debut with this particular concept in Dhaakad?
I've actually come from the advertising scene in India, and I'm like more than 400 commercials old. So I have spent a lot of time, learning my craft, and I've shot all over the world with different crews, different kinds of people, different kind of locations. So what advertising does is, every art film is a challenge. It's different. So it teaches you a lot technically. So by the time you're like 100 commercials down, you're very, very tech savvy. Because what it teaches you is, every art film comes with its own pros and cons. Mostly cons, because it's not easy to look every second in the art film, of that quality, because that's what advertising does. Every shot is lit and shot beautifully, and that's what it teaches you. So it teaches you to be very patient and and tell a story in a very short time. So I think I was very clear from my MTV days. I started in MTV, that I wanted to be a long format filmmaker, but they're always a stepping stone. So you have to go through the notions and you have to learn your craft. And so I started in television, and then I joined a production house, which is those days was one of the best in the country. And then MTV called me, and then I joined them as a producer director. And then that's where I got the freedom to do a lot of stuff, because late 90s and the early 2000s was the time for MTV and Channel V. We did some amazing promos and some crazy films because we had the freedom to do so.
Right.
Our bosses let us do that. So I think that's when, and I was always a film buff, because my father was in the army, and when we were growing up, in the army cantonment areas, there were always these open air theaters, which was fantastic, because and there was a bar at the back where all your fathers would be drinking and your mothers are sitting there and watching the movie with all the children. And what they showed there was World War II movies and the Wild West movies, like Clint Eastwood, all the spaghetti westerns by Sergio Leone and stuff. So I grew up watching that stuff, so it was very intriguing. I wanted to know how these things are done, these beautiful visuals, how do they come to be? And that's how I started, rating the movies and keeping a small diary and rating them out of 5 and giving my notes, So unfortunately, I've lost that book now, but yeah, I used to do that. So I was very clear from, I think, class 10 itself that I wanted to be a filmmaker. And when I told my father this, and he said, "No, you're going to be a tea planter or an army man." So I said, "No, none of that. I want to go to film school." And he asked me, "Son, what is that?" So that was the beginning of my journey.
Well, I guess through a film like Dhaakad and the concept that it follows, I guess you kind of combined both. That sort of, I guess that gatekeeping the country at the same time, you're, what do you call it? You're sort of pursuing your passion for cinema in a way through Agent Agni's character. You're channelizing that sentiment of what your father wanted, right? So it's quite interesting how those two ideologies have come together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's taken a lot of years. I mean, I've put in those many years in my craft, in learning the craft and honing it. And I was very clear from the beginning that I want to make an action movie, because I grew up watching action movies. I mean, Top Gun was our favorite. We used to wear those denim jackets with all those patches and stuff. And then we would end up fighting with the Air Force kids, because they say, "You're an army kid, you can't wear that jacket because it's an Air Force film."
Right.
So stuff like that. But I think thanks to Kangana and my partner Sohail Maklai, he approached me for this film first, and he came to me with a very small film. And I remember he was doing the narration with his writer, and what I saw was a producer, and what he saw was a director. And I had a film in my head, and then I ended up giving him a totally different idea and script, and then we worked on it for almost 2 years during the pandemic, and then that's how it came to be. And Kangana was always my first choice, because I wanted to do an action movie which also had an actor, not just a star who can just do action and look pretty. I mean, Kangana as an actor, she's fantastic. She's brilliant.
She's amazing.
And the way she understands a screenplay, it is to the core, And then her ideas, many times I was like, oh, I didn't think of that. That's great. And she's never done an action movie. I mean, she's done Mani Karne Ka, but this is a very modern, your action-packed stuff. Like we have she trained in Krav Maga, which is a form of martial arts, which I think came from Israel. But she has learned, and her body has taken so much wear and tear, doing this movie, because we really pushed her to the limit, and she's done a fantastic job. And because she's a great actor, so the action also has emotion.
Yes.
And I have Arjun Rampal, who's outdone himself in this movie. Absolutely outdone. According to me, this is his best role yet.
Wow.
And then talking about, Divya Dutta, I mean, what a powerhouse performance. You have to watch her in this movie. She is absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely.
I used to sit down with Divya and break down her role and her character development, and the same with Arjun. I mean, with Kangana, I mean, she has so much experience. I had more to learn from her, and vice versa. But because of my advertising days, and I've also done action before. I shot Indian Air Force commercials, for which we did a lot of beautiful stuff for the Indian Air Force. So after those commercials, I was ready to do an action movie, because up until then, it was just a very stylized aesthetic work in advertising, but not action-based stuff. So once I did that, I knew that, okay, I had it in me and I can do this. And that's when, I told myself, okay, I'm ready to make a movie, and it has to be an action movie.
Brilliant. I mean, look, I mean, that was amazing to hear. And I think, yes, absolutely. I mean, the cast is fantastic. I mean, Arjun Rampal, Divya Dutta, amazing. But I mean, Kangana has always been, it will always be one of the finest actors of this generation. I mean, she is so natural when it comes to the screen. And I saw that in Thalaivi itself as well, where it's just the minute reactions, no matter what it is, she just manages to capture it like that. So I think when it comes to you both, and you said that you learned a lot from her as well. So collaboratively, what did you both work on to bring out the essence of Agent Agni?
I think what we worked on first and foremost is the screenplay and defining her character and defining the tone of the film. Because what I had was, initially, I think it was getting a bit too dark in terms of conceptually, and we live in a country where we have to make people have fun when they come to the cinemas. They should go back with a good feeling, because they want to leave everything else behind and then come to the cinema and forget everything. And I get that, and that's what we decided to do, and make it into a commercial action movie. I mean, I think it's one of its kind, because I don't think anybody's ever done female protagonist action, out and out action movie in India. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Rekha ji used to do some stuff, in the late 70s and stuff, and she was fantastic. But I mean, to do this kind of action, I mean, what we've achieved here is as good as anywhere else in the world. I would say that. My teams came from all over. One team came from Canada. Some guys came from LA. Some guys came from Bulgaria. There was the Budapest action team. There was then the Korean Mr. O, who did all the SWOT stuff, and Hits International. These guys are fantastic. I love them. There is a 14-minute action sequence coming up in this movie, which is to watch out for, because I think we have done justice to all the money we spent on this movie. Just purely that action sequence is going to blow your mind. And it was so difficult to shoot, because we were 5 hours away from Bhopal in a coal mine, and we were slogging it out, living. But I must tell you, this movie looks the way it looks like, because this is the surprise of the movie. This is my man, Tetsuo Nagata. He's a legendary DOP, and I love his work. I've learned so much from him, and I'm so happy that we get along so well, and his aesthetics and my aesthetics is very, very similar. So from the word go, Tetsuo-san, I call him Tetsuo-san, he has been an absolute gem. What a person, what an artist. I mean, he's won the Caesar Award twice, where he's beaten the likes of Janusz Kaminski, who's Spielberg's cameraman,
Right.
and Bruno Delbonnel. These are all big Hollywood, and he's beaten them twice, once for Officers Award and once for La Vie en Rose. La Vie en Rose went to the Oscars, and Marion Cotillard won the Best Actress. That was the first time ever a French lady ever won. So what he's brought to this film, the milieu and the lighting and the composition and the way we, I mean, it took me 1 month to convince him to do this film.
Wow.
So it was quite some doing. So I'm very proud of getting him on board, and now we are like, I mean, he's 70 years old, but he's like my elder brother, and I've learned so much from him. I mean, this is the first time I've gone beyond any of the DOPs I've worked with, in my life, and I've worked with a lot of them all over the world. So I think he's outdone himself, and he's never used this style of lighting in any of his movies, and he's a legend. He's one of the best in the world. So yeah. So
there was one thing that, there's a few things that you've mentioned actually in your response here, which I actually wanted to ask you about, which we will just in a bit, but I'm going to divide those parts. I mean, first of all, I think the subject that you tackle in the film is based on human trafficking, and I think arms trafficking as well. And it's obviously a very thorny and rampant issue. So, and I think what I also found very fascinating is that there seems to be a dark past related regarding the subject related to Agni as well, which I'm looking forward to seeing as well, to see how that all pans out. But how do you balance a sensitive subject like, of course, human trafficking and the visual aesthetics that you mentioned? How do you get that right balance as a filmmaker?
I don't think it's about balancing. I think it's about telling a story the way you feel, in your heart, the way you want to, tell it. And from there, you drive your shooting style, your compositions, your characters, and everything else. And it is a very touchy topic, I guess, all over the world, and a lot of films have been, made on this topic. But I think where we are different is, I think we've managed to create this atmosphere in this film. The way this film breathes and moves, it has an atmosphere. Like if you look at some of the stuff Ridley Scott has done, Blade Runner, the original one,
Yes.
if you're watching that, it has an atmosphere,
Uh-huh.
So I'm nowhere near Mr. Ridley Scott, but what I was trying to do is create atmosphere, because I like that. I'm a very visual director. For me, it's more about show but don't tell, So
Yeah.
I rather show it and not say it. So let the visual do the topic. Because end of the day, it's a visual medium. So for me, the way my journey has been as a filmmaker, like I'm a big fan of Coen Brothers, Terrence Malick, and of course, I'm also part of India. I also have a voice, and my voice is different. I grew up here in this country. I speak Hindi. I understand everything, but my sensibility is a little different because my father was in the army, and in the army cantonment areas, our parents were always out in the evenings, and all the kids would get together and watch VCR. The VCR days, the cassette days.
Those days.
And we used to watch movies, and it was so much fun. We were all getting together in somebody's house and watching movies, and that was a great journey. And I watched Hindi movies, Hollywood movies, even foreign language films from Akira Kurosawa to you name it all, from Kieslowski, Tarkovsky to I've seen it all, because in advertising, the production house I was working in, they were also very, very good filmmakers. So they showed me a few good films. And then, of course, my seniors in school, they were listening to great music. So you also, grow up listening to great music. And for me, music is very important. When I'm writing a scene, I'm always listening to music. For me, sometimes ideas come from a beautiful song,
Yes.
Whether it's classical or it's funk or it's soul or it's world music, it's all good, because even electronic music, music gets me going,
Definitely.
With a little bit of help from whiskey also.
Oh God, yeah. I'm sure that always helps. In fact, I think we got the teaser of the Badshah song as well. I mean, oh my God, it sounds brilliant. It definitely sounds very, if I can say.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting you mentioned how you've watched a lot of international cinema. And I think I'll be coming about that whole, female-centric action films in just a while. But going by the trailer of Dhaakad, I think this film, I think in a way, it seems to be homage to amazing action thrillers like Kill Bill, Lara Croft and Atomic Blonde. So this comic book style of filmmaking, I mean, do you think that this style could actually pave a new way for the action genre within Hindi cinema as well?
Well, I'm hoping it does, because what we have tried to do is bring a new style. There's a lot of action happening in India. There's a lot of action coming from South India. Stuff like Pushpa and RRR and KGF, and those guys are really going for it. Big stuff. What I have tried to do is my action is very grounded. It is. I always wanted to ground it. I want action to look real. I want audiences to feel the action. So that's been my attempt. I hope I succeed. We've done a lot of work on this film, and we're really hoping that it resonates with the people of this country. And people do go and watch it, because the way this film looks, the way the visual chemistry of this film is being portrayed on YouTube, and what I'm getting from the people is, I think everybody's saying that it looks very international, but our attempt was not to do that. I mean, that's just my aesthetics. I'm just making a film. This is how I make movies. I like to light a shot. I like to compose a shot. I like to, talk with my DOP before we, roll the camera. Whether we want a movement in the scene or not. So we discuss all this. It's all in the film language. It's all. And I didn't go to film school. It's like Tarantino said, the best thing I did is go to movies. And that's what I've grown up doing, from your VHS days to your LD to now finally DVDs and then Blu-rays, and that's how I saw my movies. And then of course whatever I couldn't get, some of the rare stuff you don't get, so you have to, when you travel overseas, you try and find those. So.
Exactly, and that's what art is, though, isn't it, Razy? It's an extension of what you see, your experiences, your memories, and how to channelize that through a creative medium. That's what art is, isn't it, essentially? I mean, of course, it helps to go to a professional academy or a school, but essentially it's also about that craft, that innate vision that you have as a storyteller. So I think it just goes to show, actually, how brilliant it is. I mean, I'm very impressed by you, Razy, I must tell you. Like, I think that's
Thank you so much. I'm happy that people are slowly coming out and appreciating the work we've put in. So there's a lot of work that's gone into it. I mean, it was. It's still sleepless nights.
I know.
Till the movie is released, it's going to be like this. And I was hungry. It's my first movie, so I was ready, because I had put in that work in learning my craft. And I think I came 2-3 years later, but I should have come 2-3 years earlier. But that's fine. Better late than never.
No, absolutely. Der aay durust aaya, as they say in Hindi. So I think it's
और अब तो आ ही गए हैं almost. अब तो पहुंच जाएंगे.
आ ही गए, और वो भी धमाल के साथ, like full on धमाल. No, Razy, actually, we were talking about it, and I wanted to ask this to you because I was watching a video about the slow evolution of, I think it was Tried and Refused Productions who did this.
I saw that too. I think they do their research very thorough.
Fantastic.
And
really good.
Fantastic. In fact, I want to reach out to them and say thank you to them, because his research was, I think his name is Jamie.
Jamie, yeah.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job and great research, and they're excited about our film, so I feel happy.
Absolutely. No. So I think with reference to that slow evolution video that he made, I think it was very interesting because we've seen it's very rare we get to see a female special agent as the titular action hero without it delving into societal conversations. Of course, I mean, credits go where due, to films like Samay, Naam Shabana, Mardani, and Tiger Zinda Hai, which again give a very strong female action hero that platform that they rightfully deserve. But I think Dhaakad, in a way, completes, aims to completely blow it out of the park as well. But why do you think there is such a lack of these stories in terms of a female agent, in the lead? And, in what way do you think this film is a response to the misogynistic system that we've sort of been facing for a while?
I know That's a question I don't have the answer for. I mean, even I wonder a lot of times. I mean, look at our cities. I mean, we're so cosmopolitan, and we haven't been able to do that, with female-centric roles. And I have, me and my producers, thanks to Deepak Mukut, my producer, he's totally saw into my vision, and he's not left any stone unturned. I give it to Deepak Bhai for really supporting us, me and Sohail, and he's been a fantastic producer on this one. He just had complete faith in my vision. Imagine, he could have just, said no. Well, mostly everyone said no to us in the beginning when we were looking for the funds. And Deepak Bhai was the only one who said yes. So obviously, there are guys like him who are seeing this, what we're trying to do. I mean, he saw this. I mean, what you're asking me, obviously, he also felt it. And Sohail and I, of course, we feel it because, I have, great respect for female directors in advertising who are coming up now. And those girls, I hope, will, a friend of mine is doing a film already. I hope these girls will start making films and slowly one of them will also start getting into the action genre and then we'll have an all-female team doing great action stuff. So, it's all good, and I hope it happens in the future. But I don't know why it's not happening in a large scale in our country. But I'm hoping that we start a revolution.
Definitely. Yeah.
Man, but I'm hoping that we change the game.
Definitely. But I think it's really shocking, Razy, to hear. And it's sad.
It is shocking. Very shocking. I mean, it's...
The fact that you weren't getting and stuff, because, people are talking about this shift that we're seeing, and, there's such larger conversations happening about empowerment and standing up for women's rights and equality. But yet, when you have such a very promising film, yet people were shying away from funding it. I mean, I'm really shocked to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, look at us. I mean, we're probably the only out-and-out female protagonist action film ever to come out of India. Where, right. I mean, I'm not talking about, an actor who's also with a hero in one film, or, I'm saying led by a female protagonist through and through, and I think she's, Kangana is going to, pave the way. You have to watch her in this movie, and she's absolutely blown out of the park. Each one of them. There are two very good hidden gems in this movie, and actually three of them. There's Shashwata Chatterjee, who's a brilliant actor. I call him Dada, and it was like a masterclass watching him act.
Wow.
It was with such ease that he was, learning his lines and breezing through his role. And then there is an old friend of mine called Sharif Hashmi. He used to be a writer with me in my MTV days. So he's an old brother, man. He's fantastic in the film. He's done a beautiful role. You have to watch out for him. And there's a new guy called Raj we're introducing. Who's also part of the baddies. So these guys have done a fantastic job. Yeah. But Kangana, Arjun, and Divya are absolutely bomb in this film. They are absolute, delight to watch. So I have, even if I say it myself, it's all good.
No, definitely. I absolutely agree with that.
The trailer was cut by, a very, very intelligent and a fantastic editor called Rameshwar Bhagat. Okay. He is fantastic. He is, Kangana had recommended him to us. And from the, day one, we got along, and he's brought so much to the film, because as a director, you get so close to the film and you get so involved. It's only on the editing table when, somebody starts showing you, this is how we can cut the scene, right. And I didn't think of that. And I'm like, okay, so in fact, he doesn't cut trailers. This is the first time second and third time he's cut a trailer, and and he's done a fantastic job because the trailer has been resonating with everyone. So obviously he's done his job, and I spent that time with him, last few months, and watch out for the editing style also. I think it's and it's not in your face. That's the beauty of editing. You tell a story through editing also. So actually every department, if you look at the costumes, Sheetal, fantastic. My team, a big hats off to my core team, which is Bhavna, Rinesh, Zavia, Rajiv G. Menon, Ritesh. Ritesh wrote the dialogues for the film. Rajiv and me wrote the screenplay. So the story was written by me, Rinesh, and Chintan Gandhi.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's and our Budapest line producers, our line producers in Bhopal, they were all fantastic. All these guys really helped us. Because film is a very collaborative process. If one department starts falling apart, then you can't make a wholesome film.
Yeah.
And that was my attempt. I wanted to make a film which is great in terms of story, but also looks amazing because that's my aesthetics. Because I believe in creating a world, creating an atmosphere. And at the same time, the actors, perform freely. They bring what they bring, by themselves to their roles. So
Right.
I think
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think a big testament also goes to the fact that American writer Chris Gore calls the trailer better than Black Widow. I mean, that is...
Yeah, I mean, we read that too, and we were very happy to read that comment. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't seen the film, so I mean, hats off to Black Widow also. But yeah, I think, like I said, the atmosphere is working. The atmosphere created is working. People are liking. It's infectious. So I hope it translates into box office, because eventually my producers have to be happy. I do want to make a second film.
True. No, but I think raising on a final note, and I know this is abhi बहुत देर है, like abhi आप अभी भी काम कर रहे हो धाकड़ पे, you're still really busy with the schedule and everything of that. But going forward, I mean, having done an action thriller like this, what style of films would you be interested in making next? I think going forward.
I'm actually already working on a war film, because I come from I'm an army brat. My father was in the brother is in the army. He's a serving general in the army. So there's a very beautiful story, 1962 India China, and we finished the screenplay already. And my buddy Rajiv G Menon, who co-wrote the screenplay with me, he's writing the screenplay by himself, and I'm going to be directing it. And Sohail and I will be producing it together. And hopefully once the screenplay is ready, and hopefully in about a couple of months we should start work on it. But right now it's only about Dhaakad, because I never thought it would be so difficult to make a movie. That anyone or everyone who makes a film has the courage. I give them that. It's a different ball game. It's absolutely a different ball game. It's been tough.
I can understand it. I'm super excited. I mean, that dialogue, I think, Jism se ruh ko alag karna business hai mera. I absolutely love that dialogue. That is literally so fixed into my head now. And I'm really excited.
I was opposing the dialogue in the beginning, but then, I think it's very important for Indian cinema to have these dialogues, because it really resonates with the people. And I'm glad even my editor told me it'll work, and, Kangana pushed for it, and everybody. Yeah, it's good. I think it's gone everywhere now.
Brilliant. No, it's wonderful. But look, Razy, I mean, look, I absolutely am so glad that we were able to chat today. Really, I can't wait for the 20 years.
So are we. And, if I didn't mention some people, like, the great makeup department and makeup and hair, and special effects makeup, and, everybody, every department came all guns firing in this film. And that's why the result is so good,
Mm-hmm.
Because, the director's like the captain of the ship, and, and he needs to control every department, and, every department has to work by itself also as a great, well-oiled machine. Because if that doesn't happen, everything starts crumbling down,
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, I think being an army kid, my parents really brought me up like that. For them, doing what you do is very, very important. I also learned this from the Thai people. Love what you do, otherwise don't do it. And I love what I do. And if you love what you do, you care. And if you care, you will not let it go unless you are happy. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, such beautiful words as well. So a huge thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Anuj. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you, Anuj. Thank you. Thank you.